Muted.
Morning and
Muted. Unmuted.
hi, good morning. Sorry about the delay. That we had some issues with the audio quality of the problem, but it's been sorted. So welcome to the webinar. My name is Mohammed Bajwa. I am a pre-sales technical support engineer at ProVu Communications. I have also been joined silently by Gavin Sykes, who is sitting right next to me, and he will try to answer any questions that may come along the way. So I hope everybody can hear me all right. So today we're going to talk about IP PA systems and music streaming systems. It will be more, I will more emphasize on the paging system, and then we will have another webinar in coming weeks, which will purely talk about the music streaming system. Just before we move forward, just to confirm, on the right hand panel, you can see that there are a couple of different options for yourself. There is a chat option as well, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask the questions and we will reply as soon as we can. And please mute yourself when you log in, just to be on safe side, so there's no feedback from over end. So let's move on. So today we have the following things in the agenda, as you can see on the screen. So initially, I will just give you an introduction to IP paging system. We'll also talk about some benefits. We will also spend some time on ProVu's product range. And then I will also talk about some usage scenarios and some use case or case studies, and eventually we'll go through summary and question and answer session at the end. So initially, to start off with, what is an IP paging system? As the name suggests, it is a system which allow broadcasting of a message, whether it's an emergency message, whether it is a standard alarming message or anything like that, over an existing IP network. It could be a local area network, or it could be an entire, WAN connection as well, depending on how you want to achieve it. Why would you move to an IP paging system is then obviously the question arises, because there's a high cost in terms of hardware sometimes, but then what the pros are basically quite good, a lot, because basically traditional systems, if you have dealt with them, traditional systems, they are quite inflexible and they are quite difficult to manage. Obviously, there is no IP infrastructure, so if something goes wrong, you have to go on site and mess around with cables, and it's quite a lot in terms of manpower and support. So just to give you an example, a traditional example of a background music system or maybe a PA system, you can see on the screen there are quite a few boxes that does all that. So there is a fire alarm panel system, there is a CD tuner system for music streaming, and then there is also paging selector, speaker selection, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of things that goes in a PA system. And obviously, if something goes wrong, you have to deal with all that. And its troubleshooting is time consuming. So let's move on to a typical IP paging system. A typical IP paging system looks just exactly like what you see on the screen. So you have a PoE switch, you possibly have a router, you have an IP PBX, and you've got speakers, PoE enabled or IP speakers. All you do is hook it up to a PoE switch, get them powered, maybe connect to a VoIP system, and then start streaming music, or maybe start streaming, make a multicast page or page. So it's quite typical and quite simple in terms of installation. All you have to do is run a Cat5 cable to the endpoint, and the rest is configured by an online system or web browser. So what are the benefits? As you can see, the benefits mainly are it is a centrally controlled and managed system. So because it's IP, there is no limitation. Everything is controlled via software or via web browser. So you could be anywhere in the world, log into web browser, log into the system, and manage it. Even stream it from the remote location as well, because eventually it will have some sort of VoIP number or some sort of IP, IP account configured on it. Being IP means it can integrate with existing analog systems. So we have converters which can allow you to convert a normal amplifier into a VoIP-enabled amplifier, and it can also connect to an alarm system, PBX systems, or IP intercoms, possibly. And being IP means it converges all your communication system in a single system. So basically, you don't have to have multiple products to do the same thing. So same IP phone, you use it for standard calls, and same thing you use for an IP page. Makes life easy. One product for all your paging and telephony services. So before moving forward, it is important to understand what different kinds of IP paging are and how you obviously achieve it. So there are two main kinds of IP paging. First one is a typical one which is mostly used in organizations, is called unicast paging. And what a unicast paging basically means is it is controlled by the PBX. So you create a page group on the PBX, and basically a phone then possibly dials, let's say for example 100 in our diagram case, you have a page group called 100, which effectively is a page group on the system. So what you do is you pick up a handset, dial 100, then this goes to the PBX. PBX then simultaneously call all the endpoints for the paging. Obviously in this example you only have 3, but what you can see, but what we're trying to show you is PBX will actually initiate 3 simultaneous calls. And obviously, if it's depending on how big the system is, 3 simultaneous calls. If, for example, if you have 50 users, then you will be initiating 50 simultaneous calls, which is quite hard on resources. So, although for a smaller system it will work, for a bigger system it comes at a cost, and it is hard on resources, to be frank, really. So, but this is how people generally achieve it, anyways, for unicast paging. The next one is, and this is more commonly used now everywhere, is a multicast paging. And it is quite unique in a sense that it achieves the same thing, but without compromising any resources on the hardware. And the way it works is that you can see the gray line. Basically, every endpoint which supports, obviously, that the first thing is it has to support multicast. Every endpoint listens on a specific multicast address, which is, in your example, you configure the system with 22.4.0.2.6, and basically everything listens to it. And then what you do is pick up a handset, press a button which basically effectively multicast, and all the receivers or all the endpoints who are listening, could be an IP amplifier, it could be an IP speaker, they grabs the audio and play the audio stream. So effectively, you're only really making a one call, but everybody else is just pick up the call audio and then stream from their output or speakers. So this is the most commonly used these days, and effectively we'll talk about a couple of use case scenarios in this case as well, and the benefits of using multicast paging. Next comes, obviously, we've discussed the IP paging types. Now comes what are the different equipments available for IP paging. So the first one is legacy device converters. So if a customer already have amplifiers, background music players, CD tuners, all sorts of different things, then they would probably want to converge that into an IP system. And the way you work is you work with a converter. Now, we have customers who are using ATA devices like analog to VoIP converters, and they work fine, but they're not really designed for that sort of use case, not for at least paging or music streaming. Because first of all, they use narrowband for converting audio, so the audio quality is not really great. The second thing is it doesn't allow you to control the amplifier. With overrange of converters, it actually becomes the main controller for the amplifier. So you actually control the whole system from the device or legacy converters, whereas with the ATA, you're purely converting one part of the amplifier. So there are pros and cons of ATAs and other proper IP paging converters. The second part is basically mainstream VoIP products, which are basically full-blown IP paging devices. They have built-in speakers, they have built-in microphones, and they are ready to be integrated to an existing IP infrastructure or VoIP system. And they mainly use if you are basically installing a new network or if it's a fresh installation. It just makes life easy because, as I said, all you have to do is run a Cat5 cable and then that's it. Makes life easy. So now I will talk about the product range. We'll be covering two different product range. One is 2N company. It's a Czech-based company, and they're specialized in audio equipments or IP-based audio equipments, and they have a quite a long range actually, including the intercoms. And you may know us from the 2N intercom side because we are sort of specialists in that. But IP audio system is another part of 2N. Algo is a growing manufacturer for us. Initially, we were only doing Algo stipulators, but now they are coming up with more and more audio streaming devices, and we will again talk about that going forward. So before moving forward to the actual manufacturer, how do you use the product range? What are these product range do? So basically, the product range we're going to discuss in a minute is they are complete paging systems. So they are public address systems, and they can also be used as voice alarm systems. They can also use to stream background music, VoIP paging, and some people do also use them as install radio system as well. So there's quite a lot of flexibility in how you would use these devices. So starting with 2N. So 2N has quite a long range, but as I said in the initially, I will be talking about the paging system or public address systems side of the 2N. So they have IP Audio Manager, which is the main controller software. This IP Manager controls the whole system. Any device that 2N produce, they can control it from the manager. So it could be anywhere on the WAN network, it could be on a local network, and you log into a computer and you manage your streams and paging from the software. And it's quite a flexible system. Then we have 2N Net Audio Decoders, which basically converts your legacy devices into an IP devices, or which allow you to control or configure the devices from, the software, audio manager software. Net speakers are basically effectively the same as Net Audio Decoders, but they have speakers built in. So it's the same thing, but with the speaker built in. And then we have Net Mic and Net Audio Converter as well. Again, we will talk about it in a minute. So the first one is the 2N Audio Manager. It's a software. There are two different variants available. There's a Windows version available, and there's an actual ISO, Linux-based ISO image available as well. So you run it on a Linux system, and it gives you a web interface, and it's all controlled via a web browser. On Windows, obviously, it is controlled by the actual application. So where would you use the IP manager? If you have zones, more than 100 zones, or maybe 1,000 endpoints, you would probably need to go for, or required to go for, an IP manager solution or 2N solution. They have full control over more than 100 zones. Again, the software allows you to change priorities. You can have different priorities for different things. So, for example, think of a superstore. If you are running some sort of special event, you obviously let people to, you schedule your announcement. And if something comes in, if something important comes up, you just press a multicast button or a button on the endpoint, which prioritizes your paging. So you would say something like, Amma, please come to customer services, and vice versa. So this is what priority level. So you can have 10 different priority levels, obviously, depending on how important the page is. You can control the volume of the actual endpoint as well. So it is all controlled again from the actual software, and you can configure all the firmware upgrades from the system as well. Audio synchronization is an important part because obviously everything is going on IP. There could be delays introduced because of the cabling and everything. So to synchronize the audio across the board, if let's for example you have 10 speakers, you can adjust this audio so it synchronizes and audio comes out from all speakers at the same time. And if you do have a third-party devices, maybe IP-based amplifier which accepts, let's say, RTP, then you can also control the stream from the audio manager as well. So you just add an RTP source on it, and then you can configure it. The software, just to confirm, is free to download, and it allows 5 endpoints free of cost and 1 RTP endpoint. Anything more than 5, you have to buy licenses, and we can talk about it later on. Anyways, so this software by itself doesn't do anything, because you will have to add products to it. So this comes along the Net Audio Decoder. So this is the main system that you add to the 2N software. This has a built-in amplifier, 14-watt amplifier, and if you're running it over PoE, then it becomes 8-watt because of the power it can grab from the PoE switch. So this basically effectively is an IP to analog converter. It allows you to connect your amplifier or audio devices, legacy audio devices to it, and it allows you to stream from it. There is a stereo line out and a headphone jack for testing purposes. There are 2 user buttons, as you can see on the front, a plus and minus, which basically allow you to change control volume locally as well. There is a slot for micro SD card. It is important. This slot is very important because if you're running it on a van, let's say, for example, if you have a centralized location in London, but you're streaming, and so obviously that will be the streaming system. So if you're streaming it in Manchester, and maybe, for example, the van connection goes down, you don't want the system to go down. So what you would do is you have a backup or cache of the recordings on a local SD card, and in case of van outage, it will play from the local SD card. Again, this is something you can configure from the 2N Net speaker system software. There's a digital output and input as well, so you can connect an amplifier or you can connect a speaker to it as well. There is a built-in relay. I'm sure you guys some of the guys are aware that the legacy system has some sort of relay to set the priority up. So if you want to trigger something to play or play certain recording when a certain event happens, you do have a dry contract relay which can be triggered to play certain things. It is used in a certain scenario in in a zoo in West Midlands where they have a PIR sensor connected to it. And what happened is when a PIR sensor, when somebody enters the building, a certain area, play area, it plays certain noises. So that PIR sensor basically triggers a certain kind of announcement. So there are bits and pieces you can do with them. Obviously, it is PoE, or if you do want to run it over power, it doesn't come with power supply, but you can power it on using a 12 volt and 2 amp power supply as well. So the next one is basically a 2N net speaker. So this is basically is a full-blown speaker system. So if it's a fresh installation, then instead of going for a net speaker, the blue box, you will probably go for this speaker system because it's got a built-in speaker and Net Audio Decoder actually installed inside it. Again, it's the same similar sort of thing. It's a PoE device, so it can be powered using PoE. There are a couple of different options. There is a wall mount option, and there is a ceiling speaker as well. Both have different requirements, but the main thing is if you can connect a standard analog speaker to it as well to extend the range. So there is a speaker output on each devices, and again, you can power it using DC or a PoE. The wall mount one is maximum SPL of 100 dBs or 105. So the ceiling speaker seems to have a bit more sound pressure level. But if you're running over PoE, then as you can see, the SPL goes down a bit, mainly because of the power you can get from a PoE switch. 2N net mic. So this is basically an endpoint, like an IP. It can effectively you can call it as an endpoint or an IP phone with microphone built in. So you can, if you go to some superstores, you can probably see them pressing a button and using the microphone to make an announcement. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this is a similar version, but it's more like an IP version for the same thing. So basically, you have 12 programmable buttons. You can program them for live paging. You can also program them to, when you press a certain button, it maybe play a recorded message. You can also set up, you select a zone. So let's say, for example, if you only want to make an announcement in sales area, or or maybe in a packaging area, you can obviously select that option as well. This is again PoE, so you don't have to run any complicated cabling. All you have to do is Cat5, and this net mic will get recognized in 2N software. So you configure this thing from the 2N software. So the next one is IP audio converter. The IP audio converter, as the name suggests, is a converter. So basically, it is mainly used to convert any legacy device into a paging system. It is basically, this one is uniquer than an IP audio decoder is because this one has a web browser built in, so you can configure this from a web browser. So you don't need a net speaker software for this one or audio manager software for it. You plug it in and it will get an IP address. You log into the web interface, configure a SIP account, and then purely it will just convert that SIP traffic into VoIP. So this is more like a purely SIP to audio converter. It's got 18 volt amplifier built in. Again, because it's, as I said, because it's got web interface and it's got SIP built in, you configure a SIP extension on it, call the extension, and it will basically make a page to whatever it's connected to. There is as you can see, there's a microphone input, there is a headphone output, so you can obviously test it. But if you do want to connect it to a microphone locally, then you can connect to a microphone and you can actually have a two-way audio conversation. There are people who are using it actually as a door entry system as well, because there is a built-in relay. So what you can do is connect a microphone, connect a speaker to it, or maybe customize it basically, and then you can basically, when somebody presses the button, which in fact triggers a relay, it can make a call, and then you can have a two-way communication. I wouldn't recommend that as a door entry system because we do have a proper built-in versions available, but obviously if you want to customize your solution or built in something, a SIP-based intercom into your existing infrastructure, then this converter can act as one as well, and you put your own speakers or amplifiers or microphones to it. So this is a standalone speaker, but again, you can do most of what you can do with a decoder. It is not a streaming system though, so it can, although it can work with a 2N software, the IP manager software, it is a standalone system by itself, and it is mainly used for converting SIP into audio. Whereas the other one with 2N software is mainly used for streaming music, setting priorities, and making a multicast page across the board. So this is more like a standalone unit. This is also, again, I won't be showing you any images, but this also is available in a built-in speaker version. So if you want something, fresh installation, and you want to just go and install the system, we do have a version which has speakers built in as well. And finally, a 2N mobile audio gateway. So this is quite unique in what it does really. This is basically a SIM-based solution, audio gateway. So what you basically do is put a SIM card inside it, connect it to an amplifier, possibly a speaker, or any legacy audio system. And what it in fact does is you dial that mobile number, and it basically auto answer the call, and it allows you to page. So the benefit of this is, if you don't have anywhere you can put a Cat5 cabling, or if it's hard to, it's difficult to get anything in that specific area where you want to do a page, you put one of these inside maybe a weatherproof box, maybe something, or anything, anywhere really, hidden away. You can just still make a multicast or a page PA system. You can use it as a PA system. These are, again, these are 3.5 mil line out. They are relay contacts. And there is a backup battery as well. And in case there's a power cut, you can still use it with a backup battery, and it will obviously still make a page. Excuse me. So just before we move on to the Algo range, just to give you an idea of the system overview, where would you see 2N products? So as you can see, there's a LAN or an interconnection, and you have devices all across the board. So you have Net Audio Decoder connected to a third-party amplifier, which is connected to set of speakers. Then you have another place where you just have 2 speakers and you don't have an amplifier, so you just need a connect an audio decoder to amplifier speakers directly. Other places where you don't have anything at all, you just run a Cat5 cable and connect the net speakers directly to the network. If you do have a third party, again, RTP destination, which is an IP-based, effectively IP-based amplifier, then they generally support something called RTP. And you can connect or add a third party RTP destination in the audio manager software, and which will effectively allow you to make a stream from that as well. Then the other base, you can see there's a net microphone, which is basically it's got built-in speaker as well, so it can be a receiver, it could be basically, but it is mainly used for sending a message out. So it's a sender or a master sender. Then we have obviously IP phones or smartphones or other bits and pieces, and then we do have an audio encoder. I've not discussed audio encoder because this comes a bit more like music streaming system, so we'll cover that later on. Excuse me. So that's about it really from the 2N range. Now next range is more of a Algo range. Again, Algo range is unique than 2N in certain reasons, mainly because there is not centralized software. It is, every product is controlled by a web browser, which makes it easier because you don't need any centralized computer. Now it does have its own pros and cons, and we will discuss that later. So there are 4 products so far we have from Algo. The most successful one so far from their range is Algo 8180 and the paging horn. But they have a set of new products coming along. One of them is SIP paging horn. Then they have an Algo paging adapter, which could effectively act as a music streaming and paging PA system. And then we also have a Strobe alerter. So the first one, the Algo 8180 with Algo 1186. Now, just to confirm, there are two different products. Algo 8180 is an IP product, and the horn is an analog extension to the IP version. So basically what it means is, because the Algo 8180 is not waterproof or not weatherproof, you can call it, what you can do is, if you want to install it somewhere outside, you just run a 2-wire cable from the Algo, connect the speakers to it, and then install the speakers outdoors. So effectively, the Algo becomes a converter in that case. Algo itself is quite loud. The internal speakers are 106 dBA, so it is very, very loud. We use it in our warehouse, and we have to reduce the volume because it is loud. If you do have a requirement for to make it a bit more louder, because obviously you're installing it in externally, then you can hook it up with a horn speaker, and that will give you 120 dBA. They are relay outputs which can be triggered, so you can connect it to a dry contact on an existing amplifier, and you can stream from it when the trigger happens. There is output for external speakers, so you can potentially connect an external speakers if you don't want to go for Algo horn speaker, for example, or maybe a slave amplifier or an actual visual alerter as well. So you can potentially connect like a standard visual LED based light, for example, if it's a cloudy loud environment. It is significantly louder. It is about 8 to 20 times louder than a typical phone, so it is very, very loud. The most important or common unique feature Algo offers is a sound show feature. It is quite unique in the sense that what it does is it adjusts its output against noise level. So let's say, for example, if you have installed on day one where there was only one machine running, for example, because it was not that noisy. So, and then maybe in 3 months' time, the customer decides to add another machine. Obviously, it will add up to the noise level. So what this Algo can do is it will basically adjust its output according to the noise. It is very unique, and we have tested it, and it works quite nicely actually. So this is obviously a patented feature on the Algo. It does support multicast broadcasting of messages, and we will again talk about it in a minute as well. But it does have selectable, customizable alert tunes. It basically serves two purposes to be on the safe side. Really, there are two different SIP extensions you can configure. The first one could be acting as a loud ringer. So if you want just to alert people, you just dial the extension, and it will just make a loud ringer noise. The other purpose it can do is you register another extension, which could be a page announcement extension. So you dial that extension, and you can have a page. And just to confirm, it will be a two-way page if you do want to make it that way. There is a built-in microphone on Algo 8180, which allows you to hear the other party as well. But generally, obviously, a paging, you will only want one way, but it can do two-way as well. And most commonly, it is PoE. So you can just hook it up to a network switch, PoE enabled switch, and it will power, and you access it from your web browser and configure it. Again, the announcements or the ringtones or alert tunes are customizable. So if you want to upload your own, you can do that as well. Now, there is a limited memory available online on the actual system, which is about 3 meg. But if you do want, more than 3 meg worth of audio files, what you do is basically delete all unnecessary files already there. The next one is an 8188 SIP ceiling speaker. So it effectively is the same as Algo 8180, but it is a ceiling speaker. Now, it is a bit unique in that sense that it is a fresh it's a fairly new product from Algo Range. It is running on an ARM Cortex, so it is a much more powerful processor. It is PoE. The other thing is it has 1 GB memory, so it does have a lot more memory than Algo 8180. So it basically means you can add more audio files to it. It can do 88 dBAs in power. The other important thing is the external casing for the ceiling speaker. So the external casing is very unique. It is quite tough plastic, basically. It is round and PI domed tweeter, mica filled. I don't know what that means, to be frank, but it is whatever they have put it in there. In their system, but I have actually physically installed, checked it, tested it myself, and it is quite hard, solid plastic, weatherproof, and obviously damp-proof, and all sorts of stuff as well. So it is a high efficiency, high output, wideband speaker. Again, they have SoundShow ambient noise compensation installed on this as well, so it will adjust its audio depending on the noise level. And again, it supports multicast and broadcast and receiving and sending as well. Now, this is another new product coming along in March. We have a sample and it works quite nicely. As you can see, the first one we had to use Algo 8180 with a paging horn. And sometimes it doesn't work well because you're having to buy two different products and you have to run a cable across, and then it could be, sometimes it could be a bit more daunting task because you have to run a cable if you're installing an Algo inside, and then you have to run a cable outside. It's a daunting task. So what they have come up with is 8186 paging horn. So effectively, it's exactly the same thing as an Algo 8180, but it is designed for outside use. Obviously, as long as it's installed properly. It is IP66 rated. It is PoE. It does have a 3-axis rotation for widest angle, adjustments. So you can see there are two different sort of knobs on the back of Algo, and then we can adjust it depending on how and where you want to adjust it really. Again, because it's got built-in Algo, it's got output for external speakers, so you can connect an external speaker or slave amplifier. Again, visual alerter, or you can also connect it to a dry contact to prioritize the paging. This one has 110 dBAs in terms of output power. Second last from the range, this is something new coming along from 2N. We do have a sample, but this is quite unique in terms of converting, because this is more like a paging or music streaming system within itself. So again, this is exactly the same as possibly you can say as Algo. It's got a dual extension, one for paging, one for alerting. It eliminates the need for an FXS port gateway like a Cisco ATA device, because it allows you to manage the actual amplifier part of it from the actual Algo rather than from the actual, by going into the actual amplifier. This does have auxiliary input for jack for analog music input. I've tried it with my mobile phone, stream it, and then make it to do a multicast, and it works quite well. It played music from my Strobe phone and from other Algo speakers we have in office, and it works quite well. The audio was really, really good. But they also have a line output for a proper amplifier, so you can connect it to a balanced, amplifier, and it will obviously work that way. It does have a built-in, again, memory, 1 GB memory, and basically you can upload your own music files or announcements, pre-programmed announcements, and you can configure it. Everything is configured from a web browser. You don't need any third-party software for that, which is quite good because you're not relying on an actual computer on site. It does have a programmable synchronization delay. All the devices actually have that option anyways. So obviously, because it's IP again, as I explained before, because it's IP, there will be a delay. It allows you to create a synchronization across the board, so audio comes out at the same time. It is PoE, so you provide power on using PoE. They do have other line outs and relay inputs and relay outputs, which can be integrated with an existing amplifier system or a PA system, and obviously it allows them to convert it into SIP or IP. And last one is the Algo 8128. Now this is a unique product because it's not really a PA system, but it is part of the PA system because it's a visual alerter. It is based on SIP, basically, just to be confirmed. So it effectively is the same as Algo H180, but without any speaker or microphone. It is quite bright because they are using LEDs already. So they are quite different, patterns. You can adjust the patterns from the web interface, and you can, it comes. The ones we sell comes with all 3 different variants. So it comes with red, blue, and orange or yellow covers. So you can make it as an emergency, as as an alert, or whatever you want to make it. So this is an option. You can play with it, whatever you want to do with it, really. These are wall mount or ceiling mountable, but you can also install it on a double gang electric box. The covers are watertight, against rain and spray of water, if properly installed. Obviously, that's the question. You have to install it properly to make sure it is properly covered. It does offer long visibility, and the main reason is it's LEDs. And if you guys haven't used LEDs, they are quite bright, so you can see them from a distance. And they are usually used for places where you have you have loud environments. For example, a garage where people can't hear a ringing noise when their phones are ringing. So this can effectively act as a visual alert. So you can add it in the same group as the paging, or as a phone book group, and then when somebody rings the extension, it will light up, or it will play a certain pattern, and so people working in garage or loud environment will see they have to answer their phones. Similarly, it could be useful in libraries. I haven't seen anyone using in libraries, but it could be used in a quite library installation as well, where you don't want to actually make a loud, not disturb people. You just make a page or make a call to the alerter, and it just flashes the pattern and inform something is not right, or something is expecting you, etc., etc. Being LED, it is a long life. It's got a long life expectancy. Again, you provision, configure it from a web browser, and it is PoE. Again, all you have to do is run a Cat5 to it, and then you're good to go. So usage scenarios. So where would you use these products? Again, there's quite a lot of them. They could be used in anywhere. Mainly leisure and entertainment, security industries, even, where you obviously, for example, banks. You can program a button where it make a silent alert to maybe an alarm system. It could be used in education areas where you have to make announcements, or maybe in a classroom environment. So actually, there is a case study owned by Algo website where they're actually using it in a classroom environment as well, and they are using 2N guys are using that as well in an environment. Transportation, like rail station, train stations, bus stations, wherever there is, there's marketing requirement, there is a requirement for paging, there's more requirement for streaming. These can be used over there as well. Healthcare, manufacturing, and retail are some of the parts where you can use them. So before we go to the question and answers, I just want to run past some scenarios which could be used with these things. So one of them is group paging. So if you guys have used Polycoms, Polycom have a feature called group paging. So what it does basically is you make a SIP call or go to the Polycom phone, initiate a group page, and it will basically ring all the handsets which in the group page. And Algo basically are certified with Polycom group paging feature. So you can add an Algo in a group paging group, and then it will basically allow you to make a page, or whatever you want to do, really. Another thing you can do is basically in this scenario is basically what you do is configure an extension on Algo. Could be installed in a warehouse. You make a call to the Algo. Algo, in effect, then basically effectively do a transmission. So it basically initiate a multicast, which has been listened by all the devices in the infrastructure, and basically it will do the multicast. So it will act as a master slave scenario. So what you're doing is if you're reducing the number of extensions required for paging. All you have to do is make a page to an algo which could act as a master, and the master will then transmit the same audio across the board to all other devices. It could be an alert, it could be a simultaneous ringing, it could be playing a certain message across the board as well. You can also do something like make a call from Polycom phone, for example, to the algo, and algo then stream a certain music file which is hosted on its web interface. This is another requirement mainly for cloud telephony, because basically what people have seen is if you are into a cloud telephony market, if you want to add a new extension, people have to pay for extra, per extension, or however people charges it, right? So basically, if with algo or 2N, for example, it doesn't matter which one you're using, SIP speaker or micro, algo. Basically, what it does, it reduces the requirement for a dedicated extension. So, for example, in this scenario, you can see a Polycom group page. This is already configured on all Polycoms. So you just connect an amplifier, and the customer has already have an existing amplifier. You just connect an Algo 8301 to it, make the Algo part of the Polycom group page, and what you're doing is pressing a button, and it will make a page to all the devices in the infrastructure. So there is no requirement for dedicated extension. All you are doing is adding an extra hardware, and that will allow you to do the page without affecting your hosted services or relying on your hosted services, because it's all local network, and also reduce, without any dedicated extension. So your customer would be happy with that solution as well, because they're getting it as a part of the package. Finally, the 2N, this is more like a use case scenario, an actual use case. Tata Motors in India, they are basically using the 2N audio decoders in their manufacturing plant. The problem basically was they've tested quite a few different products. They were not basically happy with it because it didn't work the way they wanted to work. So they've gone for this 2N audio decoder system, which connects to the existing amplifier system. Again, it connects to the 3CX system. They had a virtualized environment, so they have virtualized 3CX, and they also had a virtualized 2N software. And what it does is effectively it integrates the whole VoIP infrastructure into one. So what they were doing is picking up a handset and making a page to certain places like manufacturing plant or inspection plant or wherever they wanted to make a page. It just made their life very easy. They also had on the schedule announcements on the system as well. So basically, on certain places where they want to schedule an announcement, when, for example, when a certain part of the motor car comes along, they wanted to say, please check this, and vice versa, depending on whatever you want to announce. So they had this solution. So they came up with this solution, and so far they have been very, very happy with overall what they have achieved, and it is future-proof. It's not purely just a PA system. You can do a lot more with it as well. And they liked that flexibility in the 2N system. So nearly finishing now. The final thing is integration with VoIP infrastructure. Both Algo and 2N are known to work with the major industry players, such as Shotel, Cisco Call Manager, Asterisk, FreeSwitch, Broadsoft, Avaya, Polycom, Mitel. These are most of them, but there are other PBXs as well, which are compatible in terms of SIP compatibility, just to confirm. And they have been tested with most IP phone manufacturers for multicast paging. So we have tested it with Snom, Yelinks, Panasonic, but any phone that supports multicast paging, it should work because it's more like a standard protocol for audio. It is becoming more like a standard protocol for audio streaming anyways, mainly because it doesn't require an extra extension on the PBX, or it doesn't require, it doesn't put an extra load on the system. It's just a listening address and everybody grabs it. So it's quite a unique feature, and it works quite well with a VoIP infrastructure or VoIP hardware. So just in summary, really, as you can see, they are simple, easy to install, configure systems, because mainly all you have to do is run a Cat5 cable. Central management is quite important for these things. So central management, you configure it from a web browser on the Algos, or you configure it from a software on the two-end solution. Finally, integration with, it can integrate with an existing IP infrastructure. And we at ProVu do have a dedicated technical support team. If there's a problem with anything, we can help you with the solution or providing solution, or actually design the solution around that. The presentation will be available to download from website shortly. We will be putting it on the website, a recorded version of the webinar as well, if you just want to go back to it. Obviously, if we have missed something, if there are any questions, we would like your feedback and your questions as well. As I said, we will be emailing and making the slides available to download shortly as well. If you have any questions, on the right hand side box, you do have an option to chat, so you can send us a message and we will reply back to you. If there's something which requires a bit more detailed answer, we will email you separately after the webinar. So I'll give you some couple of minutes to see if we have any questions. It seems like we don't have any questions really, which is quite good. So again, I'm sure you will be hearing, you will be having conversations with the customers, or if there are more questions, either you can do this or that, or how we can achieve that. My contact details are there. We can, obviously, you can email me. If I'm not around, you can email contact@provu.co.uk with any opportunity you have, and we can discuss or work with you in achieving your solution. That's it, really. That's it for today. I hope it was useful. We will be in touch with people who have asked us to get in touch. So if there's any questions, again, my details are in front of you. If I'm not around, Gavin will be available as well to help you with any questions you may have. Hopefully it was worth a while. So thanks for attending, and we'll speak to you shortly. Cheers.